Hey everyone, what is going on? I'm Matthew Oliver, and this is Stillwater Alchemy, the podcast, episode 9, Spiritual Protection. In this episode, I'm going to be giving some introduction to how you can protect yourself using different spiritual means, spiritual tools, and your own intuition. So let's dive in, shall we? This episode was inspired a couple months ago when I was talking about the Harry Potter movie and light spoilers ahead. But in the first movie, when Professor McGonagall is talking to Dumbledore and saying, "Are you sure we should leave Harry with these muggles? I've been watching them. They're the worst muggles I've ever seen." And Dumbledore is like, "Yes, Minerva, we have to do this. This is for his own protection." And reading the books or watching the movies, you see that Harry Potter's home life with his aunt, uncle, cousin is less than ideal. He's constantly bullied, he's abused. There's all of this negative energy that he has to endure during that time. However, and this is where the light spoilers come in, it was for his own protection so that he wouldn't be killed, so that he would have that blood from his family protecting him from the greatest evil, Voldemort. So Dumbledore knew what he was doing with entrusting Harry right after his parents died in this protective area. And that was for what, the first 11, 12 years of Harry's life to be in that environment, to not have any really loving family at all. So like 11, 12 years. And if we're going in the mindset of you still have to go back every summer after each year of Hogwarts, of school, to this really unaligned family structure. And for some, and I'm sure some of you in this boat right now, where it feels like every time you get back up from a really challenging or tough situation, it feels like you're going right back into this feeling of contraction or fear or scarcity of you're working extremely hard, you're learning all these lessons, you have to go back to this environment where it's not progressing as quickly as you want it to, or you're still making your way through what is still a very challenging period of your life. And so I initially talked about this and was talking about it on Stillwater Alchemy's Instagram. So many people are like, well, how do you know if you're in a spiritually protective time of your life, or even looking back in your own life to see if you were being protected or if that was just something that you had to go through for your soul's journey. And so I want to talk about that and sharing a personal story, which I don't think I've ever shared before on any platform. So this will be good. And it's very, very poignant because it was very impactful at that point in my life. But I just want to go over some basics because I guarantee you, and I'm going to be very candid, Mercury is currently in Sagittarius. So a lot of you are likely doing the bare minimum when it comes to your own spiritual protection? Are you cleansing your home after strangers or even family have entered it? You can be clearing it with sage, Palo Santo, rosemary. You can also buy smudging sprays. Like I went to this local store when I was in Calgary, and the owner makes everything from scratch. Everything is locally sourced, but you use different blends of essential oils and also had a black tourmaline crystal in the spray. And I spray that every single day, even if there's no one in my home. I will spray that every day. If you know Reiki, then you can do Reiki on your home or Reiki on yourself to clear the energy. When you are showering or taking a bath, you can use that water energy to cleanse yourself. But here's the thing, like I've had clients before in the past say when they shower or take a bath, like it feels like it's not doing anything. Okay, well, if you just cleared your energy at the end of the day, cleared other people's projections, cleared the humans from the outside world, and then you immediately hop on your phone, you're checking emails, you're checking social media, it's literally the equivalent of running straight into a pile of mud, energetically speaking. You're still imprinting yourself with all of this energy. So you just took a shower to clean yourself of other people's energy and the energy of the day, and then you instantly go back on social media. How does that make sense? It doesn't. So if you're really wanting to use the water element to cleanse your vessel before you go to bed, then ensure that you're not allowing other people's energy. That would be like brushing your teeth and then immediately eating chocolate cake and then being like, why am I getting cavities? I'm brushing my teeth every night. Well, immediately right after eating chocolate cake and then going to bed, the sugar is probably still on your teeth. So make it make sense. One thing, of course, is building your own intuition. Everyone has intuition. Whether or not you listen to it is a different story. And I get a lot of questions about building one's intuition. You can just do intuition tests with the universe. You can say, okay, I'm going to go for a walk and I want to see prosperity. I want to see beauty. You leave the house and you just ask yourself left or right. And then when you turn left or right, you see a beautiful car, you see a beautiful couple holding hands, you see a billboard with people laughing on it, a beautiful energy, then you're affirming to yourself, okay, I wanted to see beauty. I wanted to see prosperity. I wanted to see animals. And you're doing that intuitive test with yourself every single day, if you so choose, right? But guaranteed all of you listening right now have had some type of intuitive download or a knowing that you just have to contact someone at a certain point. Like, I'm really thinking about this person. You text them, they say, I was just thinking about you. Okay, so then that energetic signal, like you intuitively knew that that person was reaching out to you, you could feel it. Boom. One really easy example that I give that sometimes clients don't even recognize is that a lot of times it's like, no, I need to go to the grocery store right now. Like, I don't want to wait till the end of the day. Like, let's just do it now. And then I go, there's no lines. And then as soon as I'm done checking out, I look behind me and there's lines on every single till. I'm like, great. Like, that saves me 5, 10 minutes. And I'm an Aries moon. I do not like waiting in a line. So me just trust and intuition, I had to go to the grocery store at that time for it to be an easy experience made my day easier, allowed me to do other things that are more enjoyable than waiting in line at the grocery store. Really recount that as well. If you're building your intuition, then at the end of the day, physically write down in your journal, okay, where did my intuition guide me today? And also, knowing where you didn't listen to your intuition, often in romantic relationships or maybe jobs or talking with certain friends, you're like, I really just wanted to say this and I didn't, and now it bit me. Or I knew I shouldn't have went out tonight. I really needed the rest, and now I'm exhausted. It's like your intuition. I often think of intuition as well as your connection to your higher self or your connection to your best self. So if intuitively you know, and this is where it's sometimes harder to listen to your intuition, but if you know that you're meant to leave a job, a friendship, a romantic relationship, but you don't know why, but you're like, something is telling me, like, I have this intuitive calling that I need to leave right now, then are you going to trust your intuition or not? And if you have had a history of not trusting your intuition because you don't like what your intuition is telling you, then this is an opportunity for you to gain greater spiritual protection. Like, I personally have been in situations where so many of people have told me that it's not going to work out, quote unquote. Like, it's not that easy. You can't get that. That's not how the world works. Like, from even like friends and family, I was like, this is wild. Why would you want to tell me that I can't achieve this or can't have that? And there was something deep in my spirit. I'm like, no, this is going to work. To the one point, and this is really wild. This wasn't the initial story I was going to share, but this is really good in terms of intuition. So, when I was living in Vancouver last year, I was in a penthouse. It was like real estate nirvana. The views were phenomenal. It was one of the most coveted pieces of property in Vancouver and likely in the country of Canada. Like, the sunset views were phenomenal. I was looking out at water, but Vancouver just wasn't aligned. And I knew I was meant to come back to Toronto. So I knew that about 6 months in, which was its own story and adventure for another time. But when I was in the end of that year, so the end of 2023, I was like, I just want someone to take over my lease and to take all my furniture because everything was pretty much brand new. And for the second half of that year, because I was only in that penthouse for 1 year, I was traveling so much. I was in LA, I was in Palm Springs, I was in Atlanta. I was traveling a lot. So that's what I was manifesting. And there was something in me intuitively that just knew it was going to work. Like, I was going to reach out and I'd reached out like to a couple contacts to see if they knew other people that want to take over this lease, but I just knew intuitively it was going to work out. So not only was someone going to take over the lease, but that I was going to be able to find someone who could buy all these major pieces of furniture. Fast forward, I came back from New York, I talked to my landlord, talked to the property manager. They're like, if we can find someone to take over the lease, then we'll allow it, no financial penalty. And the first couple that comes to view that penthouse, and I'd staged it meticulously, like anyone who like knows me very well knows I am very hygienic. I like things to be organized. My natal Jupiter is in Virgo, making a good trine-based aspect on my Capricorn placement. So I like things to be orderly. And they were visiting from London, England for their son, who currently had lived in Miami at the time. And they loved it. And I found out a week later that they were going to take over the lease. I'm like, thank God. And then a week after that, my landlord was saying, hey, like they're also interested in buying the furniture. Can you give a list? And I gave them a list and I said, if you take all of it, I'll give you an additional 20% off. And they're like, yep, no problem. I mean, they're paying in British pounds to Canadian, so they got a phenomenal deal. But I was just so grateful that someone had taken over my lease, that I didn't have to pay this huge financial penalty. And they took every major piece of furniture. We're talking like couch, desk, bed frame, TV, like everything was done. And I'm getting passionate sharing this story because, again, I've just had so many people in my past. I'm like, that's not how the world works. That's not going to happen. But intuitively, I knew like, and there were times where I was anxious about this whole thing because it would have been a lot of money if I would have had to pay out the lease and like the financial penalty to break the lease. But everything just worked out as it should. And I remember sitting, like, standing in the master bathroom when I was getting anxious. I'm like, this has worked out before. Everything is going to be fine. Just trust us, like the higher power. And I'm like, great. And so having that connection to one's intuition also protects you from yourself. That's the thing when it comes to breath work, journaling, meditation. It's protecting you from your own mind, from the own fear, right? It's kind of the notion of everything's going to be okay. And if it's not going to be okay, then you're likely dead. Right? You're going to figure out a way to make this work, to get through this contraction. So first and foremost, it's always going to be building that intuition with yourself because then the entire world could be saying one thing, but you intuitively know what's aligned for you. And it's not that people that love you are trying to deter you or trying to do anything negative towards you. It's just what's meant for you. And it can be challenging when the stakes are increased. When the stakes are increased, when it means potentially losing or having to spend a significant amount of money, when it means moving to a new home or across the country, when it means that you're letting go of a marriage or a long-term relationship because you know that you've tried everything and your intuition is telling you to move on. That can be really hard when everyone's like, what are you doing? That's crazy. You're going to lose out on all this money. That doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense to you. And you're protecting yourself from potential further financial loss, further heartbreak, further pain, because what's meant for you is what's meant for you. So if this is going to happen regardless of you meeting a more aligned partner, you getting your dream job or starting your dream business, like these things have to end for then you to move forward in your soul's journey. It's kind of like you can do this the easy way or the hard way. And if you do it the easy way, trusting your intuition, then it prevents you from having to, like we mentioned earlier, not trusting your intuition, going out, being exhausted the next day, being irritable, losing out on opportunities, etc., etc. So number one is always going to be your intuition. Number two is protecting your vessel, right? Like when my vessel is clear, when I'm well rested, when I have the resources, when I'm eating everything that I need to be eating, my intuition is so strong because my vessel is so clean. It's so pure. It's boom, everything can come in. So if you are not doing everything you need to be doing to have a healthy, clear vessel, then of course it's likely that you're going to make decisions based off of being tired, being irritable, just wanting to get things done quick. And is that really for your best good? Likely not. So that spiritual protection is also aligned with your physical well-being. So are you doing the things that you need to be doing each and every day to be physically, mentally, and spiritually aligned with your highest good? And if you're not, then again, it's you're not even protecting yourself from the many temptations that are going to get you throughout the day. So if you know that you shouldn't eat dairy and you go out to a friend's birthday party and you eat the ice cream cake, well, you're kind of working against yourself. You're not even trying to protect your own well-being out of the fear of not being liked or having your friend be upset that you're not eating the cake. Well, I've heard like every possible derivative of this story. It's like I didn't want to make X person mad at me. I didn't want to feel left out. I didn't want to X, Y, and Z. Okay, so if you're choosing to work against yourself, to self-sabotage, then your body's going to be impaired, your connection to your higher self is going to be impaired, and you're not going to be as protected as possible. That'd be like saying It's massively raining outside, but I don't want to bring the umbrella because it doesn't go with the outfit. Okay, well then get an umbrella that goes with the outfit. You can politely tell your friends like, "Hey, remember that I can't have dairy, so like please don't be offended." Or it's like, "Let's have two cakes," or maybe you bring your own cake as a friend, like a gift to your friend, so that everyone can have all the cake. And there's multiple options that if you can't have dairy, that there's a different cake that's maybe gluten-free, and so everyone gets to benefit. Like there's ways around this that you can still stay in alignment, that you're still staying protected without having to compromise what you need to fully show up. And that also just comes into boundaries, right? You are protecting yourself, you're protecting your spirit, you're protecting your soul by having certain boundaries. If you know in relationships that you have certain barometers, certain boundaries, certain likes and interests and desires, you would likely say that. You would likely see if those beliefs and those boundaries are respected before you go deeper and deeper and deeper into the relationship so that you are protecting yourself. It's no different again with spiritual protection. A lot of it is still aligned with what we do in our day to day, but it's also linking, okay, if this is decreasing our vitality, if this is decreasing our energy, if this is decreasing our happiness and our joy and our purpose, then of course it's going to affect your spirit. It's going to affect your soul's journey because you're taking your soul further away out of alignment or to the next step in its progress. You're still going to get there, but why wouldn't you want to fly first class instead of going through the desert, walking without water? It's like you get to choose the path that you go from point A to point B. And even flying in first class, if your mind is telling you the plane's going to crash every second, that's still not going to be a enjoyable experience. So that's where it comes back to our daily discipline about how we are protecting ourselves from the many different stressors and the many different things that can knock you off your equilibrium. The one last thing that I would highly recommend, and you see this a lot of time when celebrities are getting interviewed, but they'll have certain pieces of jewelry that will be protective, right? So they'll have evil eyes either in their necklaces, bracelets, rings. They'll have certain animals like snakes and lions, eagles, or just like spiritual protective animals that mean something to them on some part of their body. Some people have like literal tattoos of different spiritual protective symbols or animals. But this is something if you feel called, it can even be a piece of jewelry that when no one would suspect, but that you anoint it with that specific intention of this piece of jewelry is going to act as an energetic chainmail, an energetic piece of protection from me and the other people. And a lot of times you'll see people wearing crystals for that exact purpose, whether it's crystal jewelry, crystal earrings, rings, all of that's included in there as well. You can have crystals on your person, right? Like crystals are such a beautiful earth energy. And this also goes to when you are traveling, especially if you are driving or riding a bicycle, having a crystal like black tourmaline. I've heard beautiful stories with clients where they're like, I always have black tourmaline in my car. And this one time we were so close to getting into an accident or my tire blew, but everything was fine. And they attribute it to having this protective energy in their car. Again, if you were to get in a fender bender, or if your car got totaled, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You are still alive. You'll find the money to replace it. But if you can avoid all that and avoid the hassle, and you can be in a tight spot but not have a fender bender or not have your car totaled, then why wouldn't you? When all you need is to get a black tourmaline crystal, put it in your car, put it in your glove compartment, put it in your bag. Like I always travel with that. It's a non-negotiable. It's just also so easy to have that in your luggage or in your bag. Just put a piece of crystal. It does again, it can be a crystal that resonates for you, but that black tourmaline is generally a nice protective crystal as an overall vibe. Same thing if you're having nightmares or it's hard for you to sleep, then you can put a combination of black turmeric and selenite on the four corners of your bed so that when you enter into your bed, again, we're using water energy to cleanse at night in terms of your body, your teeth, your hair. We're not going on social media because we're retaining this protective energy. And then you go straight into your bed that's now protected with earth energy. If you want to surround your bed in crystals, then you've just doubled and you've amplified the energy so that when you are sleeping, your physical body is protected and cleansed. You've done so many things. Like going to a spa, not just getting a massage, but a salt scrub and the seaweed wrap and the facial. Like you're doing all these things to cleanse and restore the body. And something that I also do as well, like I have evil eyes everywhere, like all over my house and in certain places where I want extra protection. Also, I'm a big fan of the Medusa symbol. That's why I'm such a big fan of Versace in general for that story of like the Medusa head being a protective energy as well. But also on my front door, like on the handle, I will always have some sort of protective energy, no matter where I live. I usually switch it up depending on where I feel called. Right now, it's a circle of black tourmaline, just because I want that protective energy right at the door. And doors are also such vessels for many different things, but you can use your words to protect you as well. So whenever I cross through the door, leaving my secure unit into the outside world, I always say, angels always cross my path, angels always cross my path, angels always cross my path. I'll do it in terms of three. Or it'll be a derivative of that. So it's like only angels cross my path or angels cross my path with ease, something along that line, whatever I feel good in that moment. But as I'm so it's almost like I say once before I open the door, I say it again as I cross through the door, and I say it again at the end while I'm closing the door and locking it. And this isn't hard. What is that? 10, 15 seconds. And it's also protecting me. It would be no different than checking the box for like, yes, I want to buy car insurance. Like it's just a no-brainer to me. When I ask clients, I'm like, do you do this? Like, no, no, no. Like you're not even trying to protect yourself. And why wouldn't you want angels to cross your path? This happened to me 2 days ago at the gym. Did it. Angels always cross my path. And there was a guy I've never seen at that the gym that I go to, and I go there quite a bit, so you see the regulars, and it's fine. It's Capricorn season currently. Everyone's on the resolution train. But there was a guy working out that had an angel tattoo on his calf. And then I just smiled. And of course, like angels always cross my path, even in the form of a tattoo. So again, it's like another game of playing with the universe that your words are powerful. Your words create your reality. So not only is it protecting you with having, in my experience, angels crossing my path, or in terms like monuments or the one time I got this probiotic drink from Whole Foods and the name was it was like something angel, like the flavor was like vanilla angel or something. I'm like, of course, like it's the title of this probiotic drink. Like it is so magical. And why wouldn't you want to use your words and your thoughts to amplify your soul's experience while also adding protection? Okay. So we have that water energy, like washing your hands, washing your face, washing your body. You're cleansing the energy. We have earth energy in terms of crystals. You have air energy in terms of your own voice and your own words protecting you. And then fire energy you can usually use with candles, right? So if you want to use candles in terms of a ritual sense, or using the flame to light the Palo Santo, or the flame to light the sage or the rosemary, whatever you want to do to cleanse the space, that's you can also use fire energy. And even in terms of focusing or a calming for the mind, I often find that having a candle on my desk helps me to focus because then it's like, okay, this flame is like that passion. It's me being focused on the desire, on the goal at hand. So you can also do this in terms of if you want to use a sauna or a steam room, of using the heat element to help cleanse and to purify you, but then also to help you focus. I often find like with elemental work, fire and air works well together, and then water and earth works well together. So you can take that if it resonates. So I will end off with a story that at the time I was very upset when this is all going down, but then I was able to see in retrospect how it was so divinely inspired and protected me in more ways than one and gave me such a better outcome than I could possibly ever imagine. So when I was in high school, and this goes back to when I was like grade five, grade six, I always wanted to be in politics, like student council. I have Venus in Libra in the 10th house, and my favorite movie is Legally Blonde. So being in power and being able to help bodies of people, communities, or like the school achieve something better, to have more fun, to be more innovative. Like that was always something that I really, really valued. And so like grade five, grade six, I ran for student council. Like every year, either I was like a room rep, and then when I was finally in high school, like able to be a part of the senior student council, that's where I was like, this is amazing. And something, so I was on like class rep grade 8, grade 9, then grade 10, 11, 12. I was on the SRC, the Student Republic Council, whatever we called it. And they changed it when I was in grade 11. So instead of running for president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, social director, you would instead run for one of the 6 spots of the student council. And then within that 6 person group, those six people would vote for who was president, who was vice president, because they wanted to ensure that the best people got into the student council. Which is a good idea in concept, because let's say four people are running for president, only one person gets it, but those other three still really have a passion to be on student council. So I remember when I was in grade 10 going into grade 11, I demolished the speech in front of everyone. I was also like quite popular at that point in my high school journey, which I again tribute to Venus being in the 10th. I was very well liked. I was in like every sport group and like club, so everyone knew my name. Everyone just liked that I really did truly want to help the students and the student body succeed. So I remember when I got into grade 11, I had a couple friends who were going into grade 12 that year. So I'm like, cool, like you're president, you're vice president. Like I know it's going to be quote unquote my year when I'm in grade 12 to be president. And I was always staying extra for like assemblies or school dances. Like I put in so much time because I truly wanted to. And I knew that if I gained all this experience, that I would be the best president when I was in grade 12. So fast forward, when we get into my grade 12 year, it was me, two other guys from my class, one of the guy's sister, another one of our friends, and another girl from grade 11. So there's six of us in total. Of the six, it was only me and one other girl that had ever been on student council before. The other ones basically were just there to like put it on their CV for university applications. So I thought I had this in the bag. I was like, I need to be president. And you had to be in your grade 12 year to even be eligible for president. That was one of the stipulations. So yes, you were in this group of six, but then for president and vice president, you had to be in grade 12 or 11, and president, I think you had to be in grade 12. So my best friend was on there. He was one that hadn't been on student council. He just wanted to be like treasurer. He wanted to handle the money. I'm like, great. So I'm like, I know I have your vote. And then there was another girl that we were really good friends with from the drama club. I'm like, well, I know I have your vote. So if anything, it should be like a 3-3 tie if the other three decide to vote for the brother, like the brother, sister, and then the other girl. And I come to find out that I don't get president, I don't get vice president, I get social director, which I'd gotten like the previous year. And I was so mad because it wasn't a tie, which means that there was four votes for the other guy to get president, and I only had two. So it was me and my best friend, and then everyone else voted for the other guy. And they would still like lie to me even after the votes were read. And they're like, no, we voted for you. I'm like, that's obviously not true because it wasn't even a tie, which means four of you guys had to have voted for Brett. And then only Justin and I voted for me. And they were still lying through their teeth like that whole day afterwards once the votes were read. I'm like, you guys, it doesn't matter now. Allow me to be frustrated. And even the advisor, she's amazing, but she came up to me afterwards when I was on like the field for a sport thing afterwards, and she's like, are you going to quit? Like everyone's really like gossiping about you saying that you're going to quit. I'm like, I'm not going to quit student council. I'm just obviously frustrated because this entire time of me since grade 5 wanting to be president, wanting me to have power and influence, this was such a monumental in my mind at that time, like me being 16 years old, like this is what I really have been working towards for a very long time, and I didn't get it, so I'm allowed to be frustrated in this moment. However, there was one thing that we had to do that was quote unquote mandatory for everyone on student council. You had to go to this like a random school in Saskatchewan, the province that I was born in, and learn about student council. And you had to like, there was all these student council groups from all over the province. So then you would hear about how they would fundraise and different activities and certain skills. And remember, this is circa 2008. So this is like long before many social media things were even invented. So this kind of like in-person conference was all about like connecting with other student bodies, connecting with other people from the province, and being inspired. I'd already been to this thing 3 years, and I was not going to miss 3 days of physics and chemistry class because I'm such an auditory learner. And I was competing against one other person primarily to be top of the class in all of these subjects and to gain huge scholarships university. I'm like, if you don't want to vote me as president, that's fine. I've been to these conferences 3 times in a row. And my mother, bless her, she's an Aquarius. She was not having any of it. So when I told her, I was like, hey, can you write me a note saying I'm not going to go because you won't allow it? She's like, absolutely, this is absolute trash. So she writes a note not approving of me going to this student council retreat. That was lasting 3 days. Like I think we left on Wednesday and then you came back Friday night. So that's 3 days of physics and chemistry classes I'm not going to be at that could make the difference of me scoring 95 versus 99 on an exam. And we had a departmental for the physics exam, so you really had to like know everything. And I was very concerned about that departmental. I remember when I was in grade 12, like studying so much that Christmas season. And why I'm going on and on about this at length is because fast forward to me applying to the one huge scholarship at the very end, I received that scholarship, which was worth $20,000. So it paid me out 5 grand every year of my undergrad degree, contingent that I maintained an 80% average. And my other competitor did not receive that scholarship. And they had a different calculation of how they calculated this based on 5 different potential classes between grade 11 and grade 12. And my 5 year average was something like 99.2, and my competitors was 98.3. And again, you're competing against everyone in the province of Saskatchewan for this scholarship for the University of Saskatchewan. But it just goes to show for me again to like my departmental. I only got one wrong and my competitor got two wrong. So I think I got 98, he got 96. But again, like I believe that physics as one of my 5 classes for that grade point average. And so who knows, had I gone to that student council retreat for 3 days and missed 3 days of physics class, if I still would have scored as high on that physics departmental, there's no way of knowing. And even looking back, did me not getting president affect my trajectory to me speaking on this podcast right now? Absolutely not. If anything, it showed me that all politicians are liars, including some of our advisors, like some of the other people that were on the student board in terms of teachers that were then gossiping about me. I was like, I didn't even say that. And you're talking about a 16-year-old and you are an authority figure in this school. So it really taught me a lot about authority figures from a very early age. And also, again, me trusting my intuition about certain authority figures in that school being like, I never did like you. And you're also showing your true colors right now by saying certain things to other faculty that like me and then are telling me this stuff. Like it was like being in the Big Brother house. But I was so grateful that I didn't get that position in hindsight now, many moons later, because it didn't matter. At the time, I thought it did matter, but me getting a massive scholarship that prevented me from being in student loans, that was much, much better. And so I didn't know it at the time. And that year I was frustrated, especially like the first couple months, just from an ego and pride perspective, when the president would do certain things or announce certain things or welcome certain people of prominence into certain like arenas or faculty or assemblies. That was really annoying. But even years later, I remember talking to certain people from my high school, and they're like, "Yeah, you were the best president we ever had." I was like, "I wasn't the president." And they thought, "Oh, really? I thought you were." So again, people still thought I was because of that weird, convoluted manner in which we elected people to begin with. So I'm sharing this all to say that if you can look back in your life, especially when you were younger, and there could have been times where you were in a really tough position, or when you're in a position where you didn't get what you wanted, even though you thought that you should, that you think this was completely unfair, or that you were screwed over by the universe, I challenge you to look back on at least one of those experiences and saying, was I actually being protected? Was there actually something I was meant to learn? Was there something that I was able to gain hindsight from after the fact that had I not went through that period of difficulty, I wouldn't have learned what I needed to learn to now be in a position to do the greater deed or act or benevolence, not just for me, but for the entire collective. And so, with that, I would love to hear in the comments for those watching this on the YouTube page of Stillwater Alchemy. If there are any experiences like that that you have had, you don't necessarily need to share them, but just certain things that you recall, they're like, yes, I have been protected in certain ways. Looking back, this is very clear. Or your own favorite spiritual protective hack. Like for me, it's the intuition always. Like my intuition is so, so strong because, like I said, I've had so many people tell me I was quote unquote crazy or this doesn't make sense. And I prove them wrong. And they're like, how did you know that? Or how did you do that? I'm like, because this is how it works. But if there's a tool or a trick or a spiritual protective energy that you work with that you are comfortable sharing, please let me know. I would love to hear it. I'm sure everyone else in the comments would also be grateful to hear it and to receive that knowledge. I also feel intuitively that I'm going to make a part two to this at some point in the future to expand upon what people have shared and other things, because there's many more things I can also share, even with regards to the astrology and different forms of worship and devotion that I use that aids in my protection. But we shall save that for another episode. I bid you all adieu. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye. And if we have noticed this beautiful medallion of Medusa around my neck today. And that's also another thing that would be advantageous. Are you clearing your energy after every social exchange? And you might think that's intense, but you would wash your hands before eating every meal. Like you are touching door handles, you are touching and interacting with the outside world. So we know to wash your hands so that you are not ingesting unaligned energy. So when you are interacting with certain people, if you want to clear that energy, I would highly recommend it.